Meeting of Council open. Before we proceed with the agenda, I would like to remind everybody that in accordance with Council's Code of Meeting Practice, other than the public forum section, this meeting is being live streamed. The Acknowledgement of Country and Prayer of Council and Affirmation will be read by Pastor Steve Reithmuller from the Cartwright Gospel Chapel. So if you'd all be upstanding.
Thank you, Mayor Waller. I'll read firstly the Acknowledgement of Country. Before we begin proceedings, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and their ancestors past and present, the Carbragul clan and the Darug Nation. I also acknowledge that this land was accessed by peoples of the Dhurawal and Darug nations. Now the affirmation of Council. We affirm our hope and dedication to the good government of our city and the well-being of all of Liverpool's residents, no matter their race or creed. Tonight, we affirm our hope for sound decision-making by Council, which will improve the quality of life in our city. We express our expectations and best wishes for Australia, our nation's future, the Mayor, councillors and staff of Council, and all those associated with good government in Liverpool. I'd now like to just briefly pray my own prayer. My Heavenly Father, I want to above all acknowledge you and honour you. And I want to honour your Son, Jesus Christ. I pray tonight for all those present, pray for the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor and the councillors, and I ask, Lord, you will give them your wisdom. I pray that you will just enable them to make fair and good decisions for this city. We thank you, I certainly thank you, Lord, for their community service, and I pray for your blessing upon them and their families. I just commit this whole city to you and pray that people will put their trust in Jesus too. Lord, I just thank you for your love for us all, and I give you thanks in Jesus' precious and wonderful name. Amen. Thank you.
Please stay upstanding. We'll have the national anthem, hopefully.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair. Beneath our radiant southern cross, we'll toil with hearts and hands to make this commonwealth of ours renowned of all the lands. For those who come across the seas, we've boundless place to share. With courage, let us all combine to advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Thank you. If you could all be seated. Okay. Do we have any apologies? No apologies. Condolences? I think this is the first time we haven't had any for several months, so I'm pleased in a sense. Thank you. Minutes of the ordinary meeting on the 31st of July.
Move that way. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Seconded. Thank you. Who was the seconder? Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sheldon.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, through you.
Hold on a moment. Just hold that thought for just a second till I write something down. Yes, go for it, Councillor.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. I do have an apology from Councillor Ayad.
Okay, thank you.
A strong flu.
I'll put that on the agenda. Thank you very much. We have Councillor Shelton and Councillor Rhodes moving second the minutes. I'm going to put it. Those in favour, those against, carried. Any declarations of interest? None? Gee, that's also interesting. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is our public forum, and our first speaker is Ms Vicky Andrews and wants to discuss the issue of a permanent home for the City of Liverpool District Historical Society, NOM 05, from the July Worries. Next item is we have 2 mayoral minutes. The first one is Liverpool Boys High School named Secondary School of the Year. Congratulations to Liverpool Boys High School on being named a Secondary School of the Year Government at 2019 Australian Education Awards. On Friday the 23rd of August, I presented the Liverpool Boys High School Principal Michael Saxton and Deputy Principal Vince Surveys, who's been at that school for over 25 years, can I say, and student leaders Giraffe Ahmed and David Farn, a certificate of recognition for their marked achievement. Our community is proud to see our local school being recognised for its innovation and excellence at the national level, and it's the first time they've entered as well. Education is critical to the growth of the Liverpool and our third CBD status. The Liverpool Boys High School is a blazing trail for the future. The school's introduction to project-based learning in 2014 was a significant game changer, and since then the school has only enhanced its reputation for education and innovation. Flexible, personalised learning is a key to the Liverpool Boys' success. The school's programs including Big Picture Academy, in which students are encouraged to pursue their passions and attend internships in areas such as physiotherapy, veterinary studies and media production. The focus is on equipping students with the skills they need for jobs of the future, many of them of whom will be in Liverpool as it thrives along Western Sydney International Airport and Aerotropolis. This award, won by Liverpool Boys High School, is a further confirmation of Liverpool's growing reputation as a centre of education excellence. The recommendation is that Council receive and note this minute.
Madam Mayor, I have a question.
Yes?
Has this news also been promoted via Council's social media or other media channels?
I'll ask the CEO.
I'll ask Mr Stevenson.
Yeah. So there's been hard media but not social media. But it's easily done, Councillor, so we can do that. Yep. No, we can do that.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Howell.
It's actually been on Facebook several times, and it, just to add to what you're saying, as an ex-student of that school many years ago, they've always had a very good reputation, and I would like to say that they actually compete very well against private schools.
I know I'm digressing, but they were saying that they formulated their program and their submission on another school from Victoria who ended up in the finals with them, and they beat them. They were very surprised. But look, generally congratulations to everybody involved. It's a fantastic achievement. The second mayoral minute is about our delegation visit to the sister city Calabria. Council formed a sister city relation with Rochelle and Calabria in 1993 to recognise the number of Italians, particularly Calabrians, who have made Liverpool their home. Council has sent 2 delegations to Calabria and received visits from Calabrian dignitaries. In recent years, councillors, previous Calabrian delegates and local Italian business people have expressed the desire to strengthen our sister city relationship and to foster stronger cultural links between the 2 cities. And in February 2016, Council resolved that officers were to reconnect with our sister city in Calabria. Apart from English, Italian is the most widely recorded overseas ancestry of residents in Liverpool, and Council is maintaining a strong cultural connection with the Italian community through partnerships with community groups and cultural activities. Earlier this year, I attended a business lunch with the Italian Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Australia, at which there was keen interest in developing a further relationship with Liverpool and opportunities around the Western Sydney International Airport. Council's received an official invitation from the Mayor of Rochelle to visit, and Council's civic expenses and facility policy provides for a council delegation, comprising of the Mayor, CEO and 2 other delegates, to be sent to the sister city every 2 years. Other councillors may join as official delegations with the Mayor's approval, but meet all their own costs except accommodation and other expenses agreed to by the host city. There is funding within the budget to cover this expenditure. In response to the Mayor's invitation and in the interest of maintaining strong culture connection and relationship between these 2 cities, it is proposed that a delegation be sent from Liverpool to Rochelle in October. As suggested by the liaison of the Sister City Committee, it is proposed that the visit to Parliament in Rome be organised as part of the delegation. The official delegation is expected to be approximately 4 days. I formally move that Council note this minute acknowledging cultural connections between Rochella and Liverpool, facilitate arrangements for a delegation from Liverpool to Calabria in October 2019, funded from the Sister City program budget, with a report to come back to Council on the outcomes of the visit, and 3, determine which councillors would attend as part of the delegation. I formally move that. I'll put it. Those in favour?
Sorry.
Wait a minute.
When is this happening? Sorry, me.
School holidays in October. Not certain of the actual date right now, but it is in the school holidays. So I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Now, who would like to be the 2 delegates? Councillor Blute, put your hand up. Yes, you? Okay.
When is it, Mayor?
It'll be probably the 2nd week in October-ish. I'm not exactly sure of the dates, but it'll be most certainly in the school holiday period in October. You can take children with you. Okay.
Yeah, I'll put my hand up, Mayor.
All right. So any other delegates?
Subject to school holidays.
Yeah. Any other delegates? Can I add that if people who have volunteered are unable to go, that we can actually call for another nomination? All right, so we have 2 delegates. I'll put it Councillor Blute and Councillor Chitty. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried.
Can we have a reserve, Mayor? Because I'm not sure.
Reserve? Who'd like to be a reserve? Councillor Rhodes is a reserve. Okay. I'll put it those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Thank you. Right, the next item on the agenda is EGRO 01.
Can I move a motion, Mayor?
Yes, Councillor?
And just to make it easier for the minute takers, apologies I didn't send them through. 1, Council receive and note this report. And 2, the Council continue with the amendment and exhibit draft amendment 69 and draft DCP amendment concurrently. They're on page 74 of the Council meeting, if it's in front of you, which makes it easy. Continue with amendment and publicly exhibit draft amendment 69 and the draft DCP amendment concurrently.
Okay, we've got a seconder.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
I would like to foreshadow a motion.
Or hold your horses. Councillor Chitty, would you like to speak to your motion?
Just quickly, Mayor, as you know, and you were one of the ones that actually voted a few years ago to send this through with most of my other councillors here in the last council term. It's been through the process. That's what we wanted to do. It's now at the stage of just signing it off, so I think we should sign it off and just have it there if we do need it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody wish to speak against the motion?
Me.
Yes, me.
This is, I guess I'm speaking to my foreshadowed. We're currently undertaking a public domain master plan. As you know, I think I'm being consistent here in saying that we should consider all the strategic initiatives that are going on when we make a decision, and so I'm going to foreshadow that we defer a decision on this until we get the master plan, the public domain master plan, just to ensure that it's consistent, that if there are any inconsistencies that they can be nutted out. There's no point approving an amendment that is then superseded by a master plan. Let's put them both out, see if they work together, what differences there are, and make a decision then.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Mayor, just to be clear then, defer, not just go with the council officer recommendation, is your foreshadowed?
It's different. It's deferral.
All right, I'm happy
But
to...
that's not on the agenda yet. Your motion's the one we're going to deal with first.
Yeah, but I was just seeking clarification on the foreshadow if he was going to go with the council officers or if it was the deferral one. Well, I'm happy then to change mine to defer, taking on board...
Is the seconder happy with that being changed?
I wonder if it can still go out on exhibition anyway, so that we can get that feedback in for consideration as well.
I'll ask the CEO what the process is.
We can certainly put it on exhibition. We'll just have to make sure we're clear to the community that it hasn't been adopted at this point in time, but we're seeking early feedback.
I'm happy to go with the foreshadow motion as long as that is included in
Well, the
it.
foreshadow motion's not here yet.
I'm happy to go
The
with...
original motion has now been changed into a deferral.
And
Right.
adding on what Councillor
Roads.
Rhodes, sorry, I'm used to having a different councillor.
So number one, there'll be a deferral of this particular policy until such time as the master plan, city domain is received, and
Community consultation is
community consultation is undertaken. Yep. All right, I think that...
Madam Mayor, can I
Yes?
just ask a question before we
Certainly.
move to a vote? Under this amendment and sort of under the retraction of the amendment, what would that mean for example, advertising of charity or not-for-profit causes within the LGA?
I will ask the CEO.
This is commercial advertising. So, like we can put, say, the universities on the banner poles, that remains consistent.
Okay, any other speakers for the deferral?
Yeah, just a question.
Yes,
Madam Mayor.
Councillor
When
Blue.
is the master plan expected to be up?
Mr. Moore?
Yeah, through the CEO, by the end of this year, we'll be on we'll be with council with a recommendation to put it on public exhibition.
Thank you.
Any other speakers against? For? I'm going to put it, those in, now this is, you have to have your hands cited for this, so those for, those against. So everybody is for it except Councillor Sheldon. And Councillor Sheldon's voting against. That's fine. Okay, the next item's on page 81.
Can I move a motion, Mayor?
Yes, Councillor?
Defer this report as to allow the CEO to review the document and update as necessary.
Okay, thank you. We've got a seconded. Thank you. Councillor Hall put his hand up, so... Okay, so Councillor Hajidi and Councillor... Did you wish to speak to your motion?
Just quickly so that there's clear understanding of what the issue is, and thank you to whoever put the report together. Given that you did, I read it. And if you just go to certain points, there's green, there's yellow, but there's some green there that makes you wonder, should it be green? There's some yellow there that says, should it be yellow? Shouldn't that be green? I mean, there's things that we've improved on and going above and beyond. We've got in yellow, yet things that maybe need a bit more work are in green. And there are some places where it's not green, white or yellow. And I'll just use a couple of examples. If we're going to refer to something and say we've improved on last year, can we get the actual how we've improved instead of just having words in there? This is an important document. It's a legislative document, and it should be, and I'm not having a crack at the report, but it should be more than just words. It should actually tell us why the heritage project, for example, it says due to external reasons we weren't able to deliver it. If you look in one of the other reports in there that's put up by Mr. Ratu, it tells you why we weren't able to deliver one of those projects because we're sourcing some materials that were heritage, which I think refers to this one here. But this is a standalone report. It should have a lot more detail than what's in there. Council's adopted upgrade renewals program for roads, transport-related assets, for example. I'm just picking on someone, sorry, it's not just a thing. It says Council's adopted upgrade renewals program for roads, transport-related assets has been delivered successfully. Does that mean all the roads? Yet we've got a program that says, and I'm not sure if this is right or wrong, but then we've got a whole heap of projects that weren't able to be delivered because of external forces. But is that right? I'll go to another one on page 24. Deliver professional, timely and authoritative governance services for council. But its work is currently underway to bring all policies up to date, yet that's in green. If we're not up to date, should we be in green or should we be in yellow? I just suggest that maybe we look at this whole report again and then come back to us once it's updated.
Yes, CEO wishes to make a comment.
Thank you, Councillor. I just want to say I think they're fair criticisms, and that I would like to propose, and I discussed it briefly with both yourself and Councillor Haggerty, that we do a workshop to get information from you about how you would like this type of information presented. What we're doing is meeting our IPNR requirements, but that's a different matter than giving you the type of information that you would like to be seeing. So I'll put that on the agenda moving forward.
Thank you. Any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Next item's on page 83.
Move that way. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Councillor.
Seconded.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Next item is on page 89.
I'll move a motion, Madam Mayor.
Get over the page, sorry.
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Thank you, Councillor Caliendo. Is there any opposition?
A motion. What are we doing?
Oh, you have a motion. I apologise. What is your motion?
I thought we had to make a choice in this, Madam Mayor.
Hold on. So, Councillor Rhodes, you're moving the report and seconded by Councillor Hall. Thank you. And you've got a foreshadowed motion, Councillor Caliendo.
I did.
Oh, you've got a motion.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Councillor Rhodes. I keep
Can I
trying
put
to
the
give you this
motion
particular motion. All right, what is your motion, Councillor Rhodes? I apologise.
Endorse the identified sites for the inclusion of a water play facility, subject to further investigation and feasibility through a detailed design phase and master planning process, and endorse option 3.
Option 3.
For a trial to coincide with the 220 Australia Day celebrations at Woodward Park.
Okay. Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Hall. And do you wish to speak to your motion, Councillor?
Yes, Madam Mayor, just simply because this is the option that is no cost to council. It gives us the opportunity to see whether this actual operation is a success or not, and I just feel that it's a good idea, or that an extra depth and layer to the Australia Day celebrations, and I can see no reason why we shouldn't at least try it under those circumstances.
Okay, thank you. Any opposition?
Sorry,
Councillor Hull, sorry, Councillor Haggerty.
Not so much opposition. My issue is that I'm happy with option 3. I'm just worried that option 3 locks us into pricing, because the way it's worded is it tells you what the pricing is. I'm happy to endorse option 3 under the proviso that we discuss pricing options. We could have you know what I mean? Like I don't want to pass a motion going it's going to cost $25. I'm happy to pass a motion saying we charge people, but work that out at a later point.
So you don't want it to be such a cost people can't use it, in other words?
Let's explore options.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll ask the CEO to comment.
Councillor, option 3 essentially exits council from the process. So if we go with option 3, they are a hirer of our space like any other hirer, and while we can have discussions with them around pricing, and potentially we could say if you're pricing it at X then we refuse to let you hire the site, but we're not in control of the pricing decision they choose to make, unless we say our hiring is conditional on your prices not being higher than X, Y or Z.
Madam Mayor, in that case, I'd like to foreshadow a motion.
Or just hold that thought.
Okay.
Councillor Chitty, you wanted to say something and I cut you off.
Along the same lines as Councillor Haggerty, if we're going to lease this park to somebody to do an activity, I don't believe it requires a motion from council. They make an application, they set up and they go. If we do this, yes, we are almost locking ourselves into that one person for that price. We're endorsing it, and possibly a risk to council, not that there should be any.
So technically you're speaking against the motion.
So I'll probably second Councillor Caliender's motion, which
you don't know what it is yet.
Receive and note the report.
Councillor Caliender, did you want to speak against the motion to give us a colour of your foreshadowed motion?
Yes, I would. Look, I think, first of all, I am uncomfortable with locking us into a price, but also, secondly, in terms of that $25 fee, part of the reason why, initially I wanted to look at exploring hot weather options within the LGA is because there is a significant part of our LGA that may not be able to afford $25 per child. And I think to lock those people out of accessing such facilities is disappointing and it works against equity, in my opinion. So I would like to receive and note the report with the, point 2 of, I'm not sure quite how to word it, so perhaps my seconder would like to.
How about you just think about it for a moment, because you're technically speaking against the motion. We got someone who wishes to speak for the motion who hasn't spoken already. Would you like your right of reply, Councillor Rhodes?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I understand what the councillors are concerned about, it being too expensive for our area out in here for the constituents. However, I do feel that this is the better option because it is at no cost to council and it will give us a trial at no cost to council to see if it is a facility that we wish to consider moving forward. We might get the price down and it might be open to more people, but if we just do it this way at no cost to council, sure, some people may not be able to afford it. We might be surprised and it might be well used, but at least it gives us an opportunity to see whether the facility actually works or not. We've never had this before, and any other option is going to cost council money.
Thank you. I'm going to put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hands. Those against, declare it lost. The foreshadowed motion now comes forward. Councillor, who is now in
I'll have a crack at it.
All right. Councillor Haggerty.
Receives and notes the report and encourages the provider to go through the normal channels to hire the facility. So encourages the provider to go through the normal channels. So if they want to hire it, more than encourage them to do so. In the case that they do that there's an agreement between them and council for council to actually gather data, work out how many people are coming, what time. So we have, I guess, a basis on which to, if next year we want to do it, we've got some numbers and how many people and what ages and where they come from and what time of day. So we've got basically some data to actually base a decision on next year.
Can I have some clarity?
Hold on a moment.
Can I tidy that up for you, councillor? So the council receives and notes the report, encourages the provider to go through the normal channels to hire the facility, and then step 3 is directs council staff to work with the provider to undertake market research.
Now, Councillor Caliander, that's in your name. Are you comfortable with that motion?
That's pretty much what I was trying to express,
thought it
but
may
couldn't.
have been, yes, okay. The seconder's happy with the wording of that motion?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you. Do you wish to speak to your motion, Councillor Caliander, even though there was a little bit of help earlier?
Look, I'll just add that I think given this is a trial, it's really important that we do capture data and information about how useful this is going to be in order to determine whether or not we'll continue with it. So making sure that we have that foundation of information to go forward with is going to be important.
I have a question.
Hold on just a moment. Point 3 should be directs the CEO to work with the provider. You can't direct staff. Sorry, yes, question.
So this particular motion is similar to mine, except that we're making the operator go through a tendering process. Is that how I understand it?
No, councillor, it wouldn't. Normally, in the normal course of the way these things play out, this would be a simple operational decision where I would decide whether I would allow somebody to hire the grounds for this purpose. The reason it has come to council is because we were asked to bring options to you and we wanted to present the financial implications. So normally, if for instance, when a circus wishes to hire Woodward Park, as occurs all the time, that's a standard operational decision. And that's the same in this instance now, as put in Councillor Caliander's motion. It's the same effect in yours as well.
It's the same as what I was proposing. The question that I have is it going to be held at Australia Day, or are we still just getting data, and when would it be held?
Well, that's for
held.
the operator to determine, though my understanding, Ms Sangiuliano, is that they're intending to hold it for 6 weeks, with the closing weekend being the weekend of Australia Day coming out of the school holidays.
Well, that's exactly what I was proposing.
Thank you, councillor. Your motion has been defeated, so you have had your question answered. Councillor Caliander, you've spoken for your motion. Do we have any opposition?
No, just a question. Does that mean we're going through expression of interest in this regard, or just for this particular person?
Well, when the staff did the research into this, it's only a sole provider anyway. Because we already have mechanisms for people to hire Woodward Park for purposes of putting on public entertainment, I don't need to go through an expression of interest. I can simply accept a hiring request as I would for an event or a circus or another form of entertainment. So it doesn't need an EOI.
Thank you. Anybody wish to speak against?
No, Mayor, but can I just thank Gal for bringing the report back to council as requested by council on time and having those three options.
Would you like a point
Tina
4
would
to
actually
thank
just
the
sign it
council
off.
staff?
But I think all the hard work was done on that side of the room.
Okay, so a point 4 to thank the council staff for their hard work.
Can I just ask another question? I'm quite in favour of it.
Yeah.
But the process that council is going to go through now is to go into negotiation with the operator to try and lower that cost. Is that what is going to happen?
No, the staff have already worked significantly with the operator around what their margins would be to present them to you through option 3. It is really for them to determine their costs. If they are hiring our facility, they will determine their costs. We can certainly express the opinion of council and we'll certainly say that the hiring is contingent on doing market research because that's what I've been directed to do. But they need to set it at a cost that is effective for them because we are not subsidising it in any way the way this motion now sits.
And so the market research, will that be coming back to council before you make a decision or not?
No, I have to do I have to make a decision to allow the facility in before I can do the market research.
It's a chicken and egg situation, Councillor.
I'm still having difficulty understanding what was different from the first motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shelton, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you. So question to the CEO. On the motion as it's presently worded, the cost could come in at $30 a head.
So, sorry, Councillor?
On the motion as it's presently worded, the costs could, for example, come in at $30.
Yes, they could. Yes, potentially, and that's the same when somebody hires our facilities. We don't tend to put pricing structures in that hiring agreement.
So if the hirer on Australia Day thinks they can get away with it, then
that's how the service works.
Thank you.
But you will also get all the data and information from that particular exercise as well.
Next season.
Did you want your right reply, Councillor Caliendo?
No, just another question.
Sorry, Councillor Heaton.
Yes, for you to the CEO. Are you aware if there is another operator providing the same services?
That's a very good question. We actually did quite a lot of market research. There's 4 type of operators who vaguely work in this area. There's 2 who can deliver this type of facility. Am I correct there, Dr. Jackson? But there is only 1 that is available sole provider over this period of time. It's a fairly specialised service. The other operator who could potentially do that is already booked to go to the new zoo that's opening in Blacktown.
Yeah, well, the reason I ask these questions, we have to be very careful because of the community perception. We're dealing with someone without expression of interest. If it's the only one we have to go with, it's no problem.
Yeah. I think I'm comfortable with the fact that we're in we're in a sole provider situation at this point in time. Secondly, if they're following the normal hiring procedure, everybody is welcome to put in an application to hire. There's no limit on that.
Thank you. Councillor Caliendo, did you want your right to reply?
No, I'm pretty sure we've discussed it quite enough.
I think you're right. I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, carried. Next item's on page 95.
Quick question through you, Mayor, or through the CEO, to Mr Nadan.
Yes.
Page 97, council staff are working with investment advisors to meet this requirement, which is to lower the exposure. Is there a plan in place and will we meet it by 2021?
Mr Nadan, can you please answer that question?
To the CEO, on page 98 of the report, we are reporting, currently we are sitting about basically ballpark on 25%. So B rated and unrated, if you add 24.16 and that, so we are there almost. And we'll be monitoring that very closely.
that answer your question, Councillor Chitty?
So I suppose then why are we working with the investment advisors if we're there?
Well, I guess the percentage through the CEO, the percentage will move as the portfolio baseline changes. So we'll be monitoring that. And if we, obviously in the current investment market, the interest rates that are offered by these unrated and the B category are a bit higher than the A ones. So there's a bit of a balancing act happening in terms of the interest revenue we're going to get. So if we go with all the big four which are A rated, we will be managing that baseline.
Move the recommendation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sheldon. Seconded. Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Any other discussion? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, the carried. The next item is on page 107.
I have a motion.
What is your motion, Councillor? I could say something, but I'm not going to. Yes, Councillor, what is your motion?
This stupid software keeps crashing. It is basically as per the book with a number 4. Which is council seek advice from the relevant minister and not issue whatever the correct word is, debentures, instruments, until such advice is received.
Can I ask the mover to use words along the lines of, prior to the issue of any debentures, the Minister for Local Government or the Treasurer approved this document?
Sure.
Okay.
Same difference.
Are you happy to second that, Councillor Chitty?
Can I ask a question and a possible?
Certainly, Councillor Rhodes.
It's going to be exhibited for 28 days and then it's coming back to be delegated authority to the CEO. I just wonder if it all should come back to council another time so that we can be certain of it all. Can we put that into the motion if that's
It's up to the mover and seconder, Councillor. The mover want to adopt that part into your motion?
I'm not sure what the...
normally with a policy position, if there's no negative submissions, I just sign it off rather than waste council's time. But I think my understanding is the councillor would like a return report to come back to council for final approval.
Sure.
No, I'm happy with it the way it is. I'm in foreshadowed if the mover has taken it. If no negative submissions are received, we've got ministerial sign-off, everybody's happy. I don't think we need another 10, 12-page report.
All right. And it will have to come back at some point when...
After exhibition.
Once we get... If it goes on exhibition, there's no negative. It's still got to come back in some form or another once the minister comes back, or at the first point we try and issue a debenture.
That's right.
What would happen is this would not authorise me to sign off on this, even if we have no negative submissions, until the point that I had received ministerial or treasury approval. And then any time you attempt to use it, it comes back to council again. Yep. Not the policy itself, but the request for funding. Yep.
The activity. All right.
Can I just, with the... if the mover agrees, point 5, once and if ministerial approval is received, that be immediately communicated to councillors.
Certainly, that's fine.
Yes, of course, because they could come back and say, no, not legal, or I have
no
issues.
Worries. Okay, so I think that's pretty clear. Councillor Haggerty, did you wish to formally speak to your motion?
I would like to congratulate everyone that's been involved on this. We like to think of ourselves, trying to position ourselves as an innovation and smart city. Sometimes people get lost in thinking that's all the flashing lights and the gadgets, but actually sometimes that's what looks like the boring legislative stuff, and this is an example of us being an innovative and smart city. So congratulations to everyone that's worked on it. I know there's been a lot of back and forth between various government agencies. It's been frustrating at times, but let's hope we get this gets ticked off and we become a leader in the local government sector.
Thank you. Do we have any opposition? Thank you. Seconder, did you wish to speak? No. Given there's no opposition, I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Next item's on page 115.
Question, Mayor,
Yes, councillor.
through to Mr Jackson, if I may. We have this lovely map, which is the master plan. If council says yes tonight, can that master plan change? As in, can you move a field a little bit? Can the sheds become together, or is this, that's it?
I'm comfortable answering that one, Councillor. Yes, this is the master plan. The detailed design work needs to be done after that. And as Mr Otter will demonstrate on every occasion, the master plans do shift while the detailed design work is being done as the site becomes more... no. You get more information about the site.
All right, the next question. Southern Districts, obviously, as we know, through the local member, received $4.5 million during the last election campaign. Now, that money is for them to manage. Obviously, it's our land with our approvals. We're going to get out of their way, aren't we? And let them actually build their synthetic fields and the administration buildings once all the detailed design's done and whatnot, are we? Or are we going to try to manage this ourselves?
We've been in conversation with Southern Districts about that. I don't think we've landed on the final answer yet. Dr Jackson, are you able to comment? Ms Sangiuliano.
Through the CEO, we met with Southern Districts and we were waiting on the terms and conditions, but we did explore various options, one of which was that they will manage the project in consultation with council. So the options were explored, we're just waiting for the terms and the conditions of the grant.
As far as I know, the terms and conditions are they can manage it, and I believe that they prefer to, not saying that we can't, but they want to manage it to get it done. In relation to the synthetic fuels that will go in, they will be for exclusive use to Southern Districts, is that correct?
My understanding is that that's correct in the synthetic fields. Yes, Ms Sangiuliano? Yeah.
Right.
And sorry, Mayor, I just need to clarify a few more things.
I just want, I'm 99% sure I'm correct, but I just want to take that one on notice and come back to you about it as well.
Well, I'm happy to put it as part of the motion that they become exclusive to them if they're forking out $4.5 million, or the government is, and they're synthetic fields. The last thing I'd want to see is dogs pooing on it. Now, with the fencing around there, we outlined some fencing. There's no issue with having fencing there, is there?
A part of the master plan process has been to try and accommodate the fact that they do want fencing around the site, which I totally appreciate, particularly when it becomes a synthetic field, balancing that with public open space. And the master plan has addressed that, I believe, and the fencing is suitable for Southern District's needs while still also allowing some flexibility through the broader Ernie Smith Reserve for the community.
All right, and there's one final point, if I may, Mayor. In between the two synthetic fields, there's a warm-up area. The preferred option, and I've had discussions with Dr Jackson today, and there could be issue with levels, but should they say to council, for example, that they prefer the warm-up area to be between the soccer field and the hockey field, is that something we'll get in the way of, or is that something that can be changed in the master plan?
Dr Jackson?
Through the CEO, I've been advised that the football field number 2 is at a height of 7 metres, in the area between fields 1 and 2. The warm-up area to which you refer is at 6 metres. This area is the on-site detention basin, and it cannot be. We're advised that it cannot be raised to 7 metres, and hence its traditional usage as the warm-up area. It should be noted also that positioning of the warm-up area better services both fields. In all of the works at the reserve must take into account their impact on the flood mitigation and the capacity on the reserve.
And I thank you for that, but in relation to that, if it can be proven that there's no impact on the flooding, and I understand, and the levels are not bad and it can work, that's something we'll say, yes, there's no issue with that, and we'll do that for you guys or your sporting club. Sorry.
Yeah, Mr Otter?
Through the CEO, so the answer to that is yes, and that can be assessed as part of the analysis of the flooding impacts. I mean, we just need to recognise that this is part of the Anzac Creek floodplain, and any filling works or any changes to the levels would need to be, I guess, cognizant of that fact. That's and as part of that matter can be reviewed. Thank you.
And sorry, Mayor, one more. When's this going to happen? How long are we before they can actually start building synthetic fields there?
We need to do the detailed design work, and I believe we said it's about a 9-month program to do that. Once they obviously are getting the money in this financial year, is my understanding when I met with the member for Holsworthy. Once the detailed design work is done, we will bring forward their works and they can come in and start doing those.
Thank you, Councillor.
Seconded.
Chitty moving, seconded Councillor Rhodes. Any opposition?
Question.
Hold on, Councillor Hale had his...
Just had a quick question. On the synthetic field, how long does that last? And then who does the maintenance and the repair of that? Who's responsible for that?
I'll have to take those questions on notice. My understanding with the hockey club, who do have a synthetic field, is that they undertake care and control of it. But in relation to how long they last, I have to get Mr. Wesley to advise me on that.
Oh, my concern is that, say it lasts 10 years. After that, it reverts to council, and then council has to maintain it, and if necessary, replace the field at the original cost of, say, 4.5. By that time, it'll probably be $5 or $6 million. No?
Just turn it into a dollar.
Well, that question's been taken on notice, Councillor. Okay, any other discussion? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Next item's on page 120.
I'll move that way, Madam Mayor.
Seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Caliander and Councillor Haggerty. Any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Next item's page 128. Is this you, Councillor Hale?
Yes. Could we move that into confidential? Thank you.
Yes, under section 10, part 2, that there's legal matters to be discussed.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Closed session. As chair, I'll put that in there. Okay, next one's committee reports.
Can I ask a question in relation to the Youth Council, Mayor?
Yes, certainly.
Just on point 2,
Hold on.
notes the progress of the Youth Council members supporting Council's effort to become single-use plastic-free. Do we have a... Did I miss something? Do we have a policy, or is it just something that's being talked about, or is it... Because I've totally missed it if we have.
This is an internal policy around my staff not using single-use plastics, although I know there's 2 sitting on my desk right at this point in time. So and we do have, and you'll see that we do have a environmentally sustainable project group who have been working on rolling that. I appreciate the irony, Councillor.
So is there any plans to try to roll this policy out to the local government area?
No.
At this point in time, I'd seek direction from councillors if that's something.
No, so there's no one's actually done that, have they? Good. Okay,
No.
I'm fine then.
No.
I can give some context as I attend the youth. So it was a little initiative they've started within the committee, and as part of that, with their own budget, they've got a bunch of keep cups, and it's a little initiative that they're running within. Just recycle that, please. Within the committee. So that's sort of where it's come from.
Just in relation to that, Madam Mayor, I think there was actually a resolution of the Youth Council previously adopted by this council, and therefore becomes a resolution of this council that we take steps to eliminate single-use plastics.
Thank you, Councillor Shelton. Always on the ball. Or on the plastic. Okay, thank you for sharing. Now, do we have any other discussion? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against. Oh, what are we moving? Sorry, we're in the committees. That was the first committee. Did you want to do them?
Can we move
I'll
them
move
as a
them
whole?
as a whole. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Seconded. Thank you, Councillor Caliander. I'll move those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Next item's on page 172.
Thank you for the answer to my question with notice. This came to me through a concerned resident who was living next door to a development which I think had changed hands. Basically, it was a knockdown rebuild. I think it's changed hands a few times, and as a result, it's become overgrown. I think it's fair to say that this resident is probably somewhat more engaged, knows about the processes, raises issues, but wasn't aware of what the process was with this. As you can see from the response there, that council does have enforcement powers. That is why I would like to put forward the following motion.
Yes, what is it?
That council undertake a public awareness campaign about I guess, the expected standards for the upkeep of vacant lots. I guess that's part, yeah, and how the public can assist in reporting potential breaches. So I guess it's just let people know that own these lots. There's a certain standard that needs to be upkept, and also to let people know in the nearby neighbourhood, if they aren't, that there is a means for them to raise these issues, and that is through council and through the councillor, whatever that system's called. Yep.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Have you got a seconder?
I'll
second that.
Councillor Caliander. Yes, Councillor Rhodes.
Can we have a further explanation? I mean, how are we going to undertake this public awareness campaign? How do you consider that it is going to work?
I would deem that an operational issue and leave that to the experts.
Fair enough. Okay. Is there any opposition? I'll put it those in favour, those against, declare it carried. There's nothing like the snakes in the grass in these vacant lots too, can I say. 173. Councillor Haggerty.
Oh, it's me again. Yes, I've sent a motion through to George. So I'll talk to it. As you can see from the response, there's nothing stopping council from developing a local preferencing policy as long as it adheres with all the rules and regulations.
Yep.
So what I'm saying is that A, we do that, and while we're developing the procurement standards, I think as it says, we're already doing that. But there's a point too there, which is, I guess, we then look to expand that. So let's talk to the big anchor institutions in Liverpool that are going to be around for a while, that employ a lot of people. So that's the unis, the TAFE, the hospital, or local area health, and we encourage them to do the same.
Okay, thank you. We got a seconder for your motion, Councillor? Thank you, Councillor Carnib.
I have a question.
Yes, Councillor Rhodes. What is your question?
We're talking about procurement or creating community wealth building, because procurement, there's lots of different ways that council procures stuff, and I presume other people would as well. And a lot of that would be through contracts or joining in with forces with other councils, for say, and that way you get a better price. So I'm not so sure that you're going to be getting a wealth situation by buying locally, because obviously some of these suppliers that might be supplying the things that we're procuring may not be local. However, I do think that you're on a good point, but I think that a better way of creating community wealth building would be to include, I don't know, council might already have it at the moment, but do we provide discounts on rates for the first year to encourage more businesses into the area? Well, perhaps that's a way that we could consider.
Legally, we can't do it. Somebody put that up years ago, Councillor, and we couldn't do it legally, apparently.
Can I?
I've got a question, Mayor.
Yes, Councillor. Wait a moment, Councillor Haggerty. Yes, Councillor Chitty.
I mean, it's here now, and there's a couple of paragraphs in there, but council has tried, or in the last term, and I think the term before, to do something like this, and it's always hit a roadblock. When has this come into place? These two paragraphs that are now saying that you can do a local...
When did it change?
Yeah.
I think they might have to take that on notice, Councillor.
All right, and then I suppose the other question is, and I might be in a way speaking against this, are we here to get value for the ratepayer? I mean, how's that going to be incorporated in here? How would you envisage that would be incorporated? At the end of the day, we are a local council and we look after the ratepayer, and it's their money we're dealing with.
Mr. White, do you want to make comment?
So through the CEO, the way, let's say, take a tender for argument's sake. When a tender is at the planning stage and we want to procure goods or services, we establish what's called a tender evaluation plan. And in that plan, there are a number of criteria that are set. Those criteria obviously include price, but in addition to that, other value-based measures like experience, relevant past projects and their success, and that sort of thing. Typically, what a local provider preferencing policy does is create a mandatory tender evaluation criteria around local preference, and it will establish a catchment, generally within the LGA and very close to the LGA, whereby people or providers who fall within that catchment get a certain preference over people who fall outside of that. And that preference generally won't be huge, but it's enough to give them a leg up so that a small difference in price or quality, where they might just miss out, they might get over the line. That's generally the way it's done, and to be frank, that's the sort of thing I envisage here. It gives a local provider an opportunity to overcome a small deficit from a non-local provider, but it generally will not give them the ability to make up a significant deficit in quality or price.
So if we go to the confidential booklet just for a sec, on page 387, sorry to throw this at you, but there's a weighting table there. What figure would you envisage local would get?
Through the CEO, a typical weighting would be 5%. Typical. I've seen up to 10, but a typical weighting would be 5%.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Haggerty. Yes, Councillor.
You go first.
Yes, Councillor. Oh, thank you for chairing, Councillor Haggerty.
Well, thanks, Madam Mayor. Well, in
Councillor
regard
Haggerty.
of hiring a greater percentage of their workforce locally, I don't know how it goes with the Discriminations Act. How we can manage to get that one? Well, look, don't get me wrong, I'm in favour to employ all our locals, you know, and get the jobs locally. But how it goes with the Discrimination Act?
I think that picks up on Councillor Chitty's question earlier about when did this all change too. So I think we'll have to get back to you on those issues.
Can I foreshadow?
Yes, hold that thought.
Thanks.
Councillor Haggerty, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, so just to address some of the concerns and questions. Fine. I think, we need to ask questions about these things. You made, I think Councillor Hachidi made the point that we need to get best value for money for ratepayers. As we've had explained, it would only be a small factor. They still have to be quality and all that kinds of thing. The other thing we need to do for our ratepayers as a council and councillors is, or we should be doing, is investing in local businesses, stimulating local employment and keeping as much money within Liverpool as we can. And this is one very effective way to do it. You'll be surprised to know this, but I haven't made all this up. This is actually a bit of a movement that's taken off in different parts of the world. In sort of Rust Belt areas of the United States, it's been quite successful in Cleveland and also in Preston in the UK. And this is sort of the first step of that. It's about encouraging local businesses, keeping dollars in the economy, which in turn means rather than a dollar going to some multinational cleaning corporation, it goes to a local business. When they do shop for groceries, when they go to a restaurant, when they go to a cafe, they do so in Liverpool. That has a multiplier effect, so the money stays in Liverpool and employs more people.
Well, that's a shop local.
Hold on a minute. Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Councillor Hachidi, you wish to speak against the motion, I gather, if you've got a foreshadowed?
I'm just, and I will, not that I don't, because we have tried before to do this and it's always been a no. I think we're just complicating it too much with your workforce training, with who's hiring locally, I think it's just all too muddled up. If it's just a standard, go back, can we do this? If we can, what's it got to look like? And then come back to council. I'd be happy with that, but I think we're just putting too much in there. How do we know who's hiring locally? And we're going to support that business because they've got employees that are from this area. I mean, it's just too complicated the way it's written. If you ask for something that says, come back, can we do this? If we can, what does it look like? I'd be more than happy to support it. If not, I'd move a motion that receives and notes the question with notice.
All right, well, I'm happy to play with this, amend it to get everyone on board because it looks like, in principle, everyone's supportive of it. Yep. All right, so
maybe just point one.
We're okay with point one.
Just leave it there.
And just leave it at that.
Well, I think the important thing is that we also encourage other large institutions in Liverpool to try and do the same. So,
Can I suggest that you write, for the second point, consider including those in the strategy?
Well, CEO wishes to comment at this point.
I just want to say that a lot of the work that you outline, Councillor Haggerty, in your motion, actually the city economy team already do quite a bit of it. So I'd probably appreciate an opportunity for them to come and brief you and then get direction if there's any areas where we're missing. I just want to make mention of the Moorebank intermodal money again, because I thought that the councillors would enjoy thinking about that again. One of the elements in that proposal that has been supported by the federal government is that we employ a position specifically to work with the big industries here to look at local employment and local engagement. So we will actually have a specific position on staff who is undertaking a lot of that work.
Can I make a suggestion then that you might consider? That council not develop a local preferencing policy, but council report back on a local preferencing strategy that incorporates the local preferencing into council procurement standards, then consider including the next bit. Because there's other things that you know, you would go on forever, as the CEO has pointed out, because I do believe that a lot of these things are currently being done. Another thing is shop local, which you hinted on in there, which is another thing that we could perhaps look at doing to promote people shopping in their local area. There's lots of things that we could do, but I think it's more a report that we need at this stage to find out exactly what council is doing currently, and then look at what else we could do to add extra merit to what we are already doing.
all right, so
Hold on, Councillor.
I just wanted to provide you with some comfort there, Councillor Rhodes, that if we did develop a policy, that would have to be a policy adopted by council. So we would need to bring it back to you. I can't adopt that type of policy. You'd have to debate it again, so it would come back.
all right, so I think we leave point 1, but perhaps we turn point 2 into a report. So council report back on the potential to include other anchor institutions. So we start on the preferencing policy while we're doing the procurement standards, and the rest about getting everyone else involved is basically we go out and do a report and see if anyone else has the appetite for it and whether it'll work. Yeah?
Yep. Okay. And get rid of the other points. Get rid of the other points, Councillor Haggerty? Yep, all right. I think that's clearer. Councillor Chitty, are you still happy to foreshadow, or you're happy?
I'm happy
right?
with my fellow.
Okay, is there any opposition?
Can we just get it? I know.
Any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, carried. Councillor Rhodes, can you turn off your button, please? Thank you. Next item is in Councillor Ayad's name. It's coming next meeting anyway, so we'll leave that one. Next one is Councillor Chitty. It's coming next time as well. Pardon? Remove them? Okay, no worries.
Fine.
Yep. Okay. Next one's question with notice. Councillor Rhodes, you have a response there?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank Council for the very comprehensive response that they gave to those questions. And I note all the information that was considered in it. I note that it was the Mayor's decision not to permit the constituents to speak at Council, and I understand that Council has to have rules, and the Mayor, as chairperson of the Council meeting, has to make decisions on these matters. And I accept that Council has now held meetings as well with the constituents involved, and I thank Council for that, and for discussing that Council perhaps will provide transportation to the new tennis courts for the people concerned. I am truly thankful for Council's actions on the matter, but my concern still remains that there is an ever-increasing ageing population into the future, that Council may not have adequate measures in place to address the emerging needs of this sector of our community. And Because of that, I'd like to put up a motion that Council notes the special needs of Liverpool's ageing population and presents a report back to Council December meeting, don't know whether you can change the date, on how Council can identify and address the special needs of the ageing population in the community through consultation policy and procedure and Council's social impact policy and procedures.
I think that's very clear, Councillor, and I think December, from what I gather from the CEO's comments just now, is okay. So you're moving that. Have we got a seconder? Councillor Hull putting his hand up. Is there any opposition? I'll put it, those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Next item on page 179. Oops. Councillor Rhodes.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Willing to wait for those figures that are supplied to the 1st of October Tourism and CBD Committee meeting.
Wonderful. Okay. Next item's on page 183.
And happy with the response, and thank you,
That one's
Council.
in September. And next one's 184, and I've run out of pages, so I turned the page too soon.
Sorry,
Here it
183, while I thank Councillor Rhodes for being happy, he's not.
That is very true. She's
So
happy.
181 was...
This is your name, 183.
181's done.
Yeah.
181
She's
is
waiting.
Yeah.
So
Liverpool
183 is Councillor Hachidi.
All
Yes.
right. So does, and I note that it says September, but given it was a pretty straightforward thing and it's been with officers for 2 weeks and things are supposed to be on notice, is there a response to... Do we know if we have a policy? I know we're saying we're getting a detailed thing, but is there any chance of getting a verbal, given that it's been a couple of weeks?
We do have a customer service policy, and we do have committed timeframes for a number of activities in the organisation. I haven't seen the full draft about this. It's very difficult to monitor email responses and telephone responses. So it's basically done on a unit by unit basis. The managers should be taking responsibility to ensure that they're keeping an eye that the standards set in the customer service policy are updated. That's my verbal response to you. But I'm also express, and I will express in response, but it's an extremely challenging piece of work to do in an organisation with 900 staff.
Sorry, what is to respond or to track?
To track.
Okay, so,
Okay.
sorry, just on that, and I'll get a response next month. So do we or don't we have a policy where staff need to...
We have a customer service policy that details the times in which staff are meant to respond to things.
So we'll get all that next month?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. I think
But-
we'll
but-
take it on notice rather than you see going through the web's page. Okay then, next one is page 184, and that's in Councillor Ayad's name too, and I think that might be waiting. It's waiting anyway. Okay, next item's info 04.
Can I just ask...
Can I do a
Just
presentation,
a
Madam Mayor?
question, sorry, that you're on Councillor Ayard's, and I can't move anything or do anything because it is
Yep.
hers. We're talking about public parking here, so I'm going to ask the question. Council resolved, and you can take this on notice,
Yep.
a few meetings ago, that if we don't have plans in place for for a car park, we're switching off the meters in December. I get the feeling that that's not going to happen, and I haven't seen any plans yet for car parking. Are we still going to switch these things off in December if we don't have plans and funding and progress a parking area?
It is, well, I have a standing resolution of council and I will obey my resolution of council. You have given us to December, councillor. I have fine, yes, I'm acutely aware of that resolution of council.
Thank you, Councillor. The next item...
Can I do a presentation, Madam Mayor?
Yes, is that on my thing?
We're up to...
Yes, well...
Yep.
I'll just do the addendum if you don't mind, Councillor. It is here on my agenda, so just make sure you don't forget. Okay, on the addendum item, Middleton Drive extension.
Move that way. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Second that.
Hold on, I have a foreshadow motion then, if you want to move that
Okay,
way.
so we've got Councillor Chitty and Councillor... Well, what can you... When he speaks against your motion, you probably will.
I just say this all the rigmarole.
All right. Yes, I am. Why do I feel like I'm at home?
Well, if the mover and seconder are willing to accept this, just that we tack on to the end here, that council write to both state and federal governments, calling on them to match federal Labor's election commitment for $2 million to fund the Middleton Drive extension.
Well, I don't object to that.
So one person's okay, and what about the mover?
Mayor, what?
No, I am the mover. It's the seconder.
Yeah, I know the seconder's happy, but the mover might not
I
be.
mean, what I would, and I don't have an issue, but if Councillor Haggerty will take this on board, giving that the federal member is still the federal member, why doesn't the federal member go knock on the door of the feds and say, where's this money?
I have it on good authority. She has done that.
All right. Can we add that in there, and then we write to the federal member saying we support her and send us the correspondence as well? Let's really push it. I don't want to play games with this.
Mm-hmm.
We need this money, but we need to get the federal member on board.
Yep.
Who, with Senator Keneally and Councillor Haggerty, were happy to do photos during an election campaign. I think it's important that we keep them working as well now that they've been elected.
Okie dokie. So point 4 would be to write to the federal member and say that we support their actions in regards to this matter, and to keep us informed.
Or just to send us what correspondence she's sent through and
I don't know if you'll get
what
that.
they've
but
actually done in relation to this.
Yeah.
Well, she's not the decision maker in this, which is why I'm suggesting we write to the people holding the purse strings, which are the relevant state and federal ministers.
And if we're going to start, would you want to debate now, Mayor, or?
I think at this point you probably need to, because a point 4 on the original motion would be great, but if we're not going to be in agreement, it means a foreshadowed. So, Councillor...
We're fine. The mover and seconder are happy, I think.
Okay, so, well, if there's no opposition and everybody understands what point 4 is, what is point 4, Councillor?
I think we're in heated agreement here, Mayor. That we write to, well, we can write to the federal member, but also to the state and federal governments. And now it doesn't work.
And seek their support.
Seeking funding for the Middleton
funding
Drive
support
extension.
for this matter.
Yep.
Okay.
Can I just number 4, what I'd like from the federal member, if we can, in order to keep supporting her, is to actually see the lobbying that's been done for that, except for the photo during the election campaign.
Oh, good photos. I'm reliably informed that letters have been sent.
I think, Councillor, in fairness, regardless of who the federal member is or isn't, you won't be entitled to their correspondence, but you could ask them what sort of assistance they require and what sort of lobbying has taken place, so that clarifies everything for everybody's concerns. Okay.
Sorry, just a question on this. Previously, and again, the issue was raised, my understanding was we had no powers to do anything until federal or state or somebody came on board. I know I'm reading this now, but for years we've been talking about this thing. Is it only funding that's ever stopped us, or is it?
No, it's not funding that stopped us at all.
Yep.
What has stopped us was getting the consent from West Roads and the RMS on this matter. Now we have in principle consent from them, as long as we hand over some cash to start going and do the work. But I need to stress, Councillor, it's still only in principle support. They want to see the detailed design work, which is subject to the funding recommendation in this Council report.
Okay, and then as part of we're trying to find funding now. Part of the 7-11 plans, didn't that say that we needed this road and was budgeted in?
Mr. O'Tell?
Through the CEO, that is correct, Councillor. We have, at this point in time, we have $3 million provided for in the 7-11 plans. However, our current estimates for the works is close to about, between $5 and $6 million. But given that the construction is not going to occur until year 21-22, we are concurrently, as part of the design process, we are also exploring funding opportunities within other provisions of 7-11 and other grant and loans as well.
All right, so let's talk, because I think in one way or the other we're going to get Middleton Grange Town Centre. When that develops, there's a whole heap of cash coming in, isn't there?
Well, that's subject to a number of the VPA negotiations. But yes, there will be 7-Elevens coming in. Yeah. 7-Elevens, yeah.
So one would think then, one way, if it does go through, one would think it'll go through one way or the other, whether it's current form or anything extra.
But approval of the design work also is out there as well. We don't have carte blanche to do whatever we like with the design. It has to be approved by...
We're just talking about funding now.
Yeah, we're now in
there's 3 million there.
Yep.
There's more money to come from 7-Elevens.
Yep.
We're going to try to hit up the federal and state to
Yep.
get money.
Yep.
But we should have money to build this thing in 2021, 22, whenever it is, if things happen then.
We can put it in the forward estimates, of course, yeah. And that's for council to determine. It's not a unreasonable amount of money that we'd be seeking out of council if we have to top up the 7-Elevens that we've currently got. But ideally, of course, we would like to get grant funding, yeah.
Just on the cost of things, with the detailed design, who is responsible for that? Is that council or...?
It's our work that we will be undertaking, but this subject report is around getting council's permission for us to negotiate with the RMS. We have to pay them so that they can go and review the works as well. It's not ideal, but that's the way it is.
That's the fun of being in local government.
Sorry,
Okay.
and one final question. Page 6.
6?
I know lawyers are expensive at times, but has anyone checked out, are those figures correct, just to look at documents?
These are the non-negotiable figures that we have been given.
It's fun being in local government.
Can we fire him as a councillor and get him in?
Good luck with that.
Is that on pro bono?
Okay. Is there any disagreement on this matter?
It's a form of cost shifting.
It is a form of cost shifting. You're absolutely right, Councillor
And there's
Jordan.
been a similar discussion in the audit committee about the way the audit fees have just about doubled in the last few years.
Yeah.
That's what's really going on.
Exactly right. As I said, it's fun being in local government. Okay, I'm going to put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Thank you. Presentation. Councillor.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Yes, I thought it might be apt as the Treasurer of the Western Sydney Region Organisation of Councils to provide a council update on new and emerging opportunities for council through the West Rock programs, which might be of interest to Councillor Haggerty about procurements as well. West Rock is currently investigating a contract opportunity for road servicing materials that is made from recycled products. Another West Rock procurement initiative is to negotiate with a new renewable energy supplier via a power purchasing agreement that will supply cheaper electricity to residents in council's LGA and possibly under independent council's own branding. West Rock, through its outreach program, will within 12 months deliver the opportunity for collaborative procurement for rooftop solar installations. West Rock, within 2 years, will be delivering the opportunity for council procurement of transport infrastructure that delivers a low-carbon, low-cost transport solutions. West Rock Light Years Ahead program, through participating partnership, councils have converted more than 20,000 street lights to efficient LED lighting, avoiding 70,000 tonnes of greenhouse emission each year and saving 1.2 million annually. Yep. West Rock has recently met with Minister for Planning and Public Spaces, Minister Rob Stokes on the 13th of June, Minister for Energy and Environment, Minister Matt Keane, 29th of July, Minister for Local Government, Minister Shelley Hancock, 31st of July, this year to specifically address the needs of Western Sydney. Now, some of the matters raised with various ministers included urban heat mitigation and adaptation, where it was explained that heat was rising in Sydney's west at twice the rate of Sydney CBD. Our current planning systems is delivering outcomes that exacerbates urban heat and compromise the resilience and health of our communities. There is a need for collaboration across all relevant agencies to develop appropriate collaborative design and planning policies that will deliver better outcomes for our communities. West Rock asked Minister to engage with local government to review the current planning framework and to consider our SEPs, LEPs, DCPs, BASIC, BCA and the National Construction Code, considering better design outcomes. West Rock is already working with Resilient Sydney, Greater Sydney Commission and the University of New South Wales to develop a tool to assist in design and build of cooler communities. as well as also working with NAROC councils to ensure that urban heat provisions are included in the LSPS and LEP workshops. Planning for waste infrastructure and service delivery. West Rock asked that the Minister note the limited availability of land for new waste facilities and work with local government to ensure industrial lands are identified and protected from future residential encroachment. That the importance of waste delivery be elevated in planning process. The Minister recognises waste is an essential service of equal importance to electricity, water and transport. The government reinvest a greater proportion of monies collected under the New South Wales Waste Levy to enable innovative waste technologies for improved environmental outcomes through policy research and evaluation. In social infrastructure funding, West Rock asked that community facilities be included on the essential work list so that councils can levy funding to build these under Section 711. And that New South Wales Government work with councils to review mechanisms for funding regional infrastructure. Energy and opportunities, West Rock asked that government work with local councils on energy-related opportunities in Western Sydney to achieve emissions and cost savings and increase grid stability. Common operating environment for local government. There is an opportunity for collaboration between state and local government to develop a best practice digital operating environment that encompasses both front of house and back of office in a similar way as Service New South Wales, providing a consistent experience for the community and baseline data sets across local government. Independent hearing assessment panels were imposed on councils at council's cost, with little consideration given to how the panels would be funded, of the direct or indirect cost implications in sitting fees and or panel referring matters to the Land and Environment Court. There are far too many of issues raised by West Rock with the ministers to put in this report, and a full West Rock report will be delivered shortly to council.
Thank you very much, Councillor.
I have a presentation. It won't be that long, but just a quick one.
I hope not. Yes, Councillor Hagan.
Sunday, a few of us went along to Farrington Park. So the Mayor, Councillor Calienda, Councillor Shelton, Councillor Haggerty, Councillor Rhodes and Councillor Hull. Can I commend Council, but more importantly the community, on a fantastic initiative? Just to give a bit of context, that was one of 15 parks that the previous council tried to sell. Some of the councillors got together and launched a very successful campaign, and out of that the local community there got together, said let's fix this park up, had donations from Bunnings, from Bonnyrigg Garden Centre, and now they've got an amazing gazebo, some planter boxes, a native garden, a swing which I believe council donated, and it's a very successful little pocket park. So I will be bringing something to the next council about making that a pilot, turning it into a policy, and trying to see if we can do that elsewhere in the LGA, because I think there are other communities that are just as passionate and would be likely to take the lead on a project like that. And the men's shed. Congratulations to the men's shed as well.
Yes, they were involved. Thank you. All right, well, the next item on the agenda is on page 187.
I thank the CEO for her comments, which I won't be adopting in relation to the time frame. I'll move the motion as is, and I'll explain why I'm not moving from October to December.
Okay, so have we got a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Didd.
I have a question.
Yes, what is your question?
I can see the logic in where, for example, calls are recorded for training purposes in customer service.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess what sort of rationale is there for use of recording calls in other situations or in other roles? Can I just get some context or some examples around where that would apply?
Okay, maybe we could ask the mover of the motion. Yes.
Training development can happen in all organisations. Doesn't matter if you're customer service, if you're the admin team, if you're and I'm not suggesting these are the departments that get it. You're the CEO, you're the planner, you're the person that serves the infringement notices. In any organisation, and all successful organisations, The best thing that they do is have training and development programs for people to grow and for people to learn. You can never stop learning, no matter how good you think you are. And I'll use myself as an example. I think I know everything, but I learn something new every day. Doesn't matter who it's from, where it's from, no matter how much we know, we always learn something new. And we always learn from others. I mean, I learn a lot from Councillor Shelton here. I never agree with him, but I learn a lot from him. In relation, I learn nothing from you, Councillor Haggerty. But we always...
Point of order.
Oh, he said, what about me?
I have lots of things to teach.
I'm sure, but I think
Sorry,
we
I'll
should
take
be
that. I'll take that
less
back,
cheeky. Thank you.
But the thing is, we can always learn, we can always develop. In any organisation, in corporate world, it's all about developing your people, developing careers, and how do you do that? Not just telling someone to go do something, it's actually listening in, not listening in as in a sense of you're praying to see what they're talking about on their personal stuff, but how can you help that person develop and grow? We just saw the biannual report where one of the points there was, I think it was only 78% of staff had plans or action plans or something in relation to that. I mean, it should be, and yes, there are some departments that probably don't have that, but it should be 100%. Everybody can learn something. Everybody needs an action plan. Everybody needs KPIs to work against. We are a council. We work for the community, and we should be teaching and helping our staff grow and develop and working through the ranks. And the best way you do that, similar to what we do in the customer service team, is in the other departments of council. And as the motion says, outside the customer service centre, and I'll leave that up to staff to say which departments they think is best, and if we don't agree, we'll just change it. But it's up to council first to come back and say, this is where we think we can get bang for buck in training and coaching. This is where it should be implemented. Yes, go talk to the relevant stakeholders, the unions, which I believe in principle have no objection to, because we've done the right thing through my friend Councillor Haggerty. Sorry?
That's enough, Councillor. Keep going, Councillor Chitty.
I was actually going to call him, but he said, let me look good in front of him and let me speak to him. So we left it at that. So there's people will come on board if you take them through the journey. And why not December, why October? This mentions the customer service centre thing, and I believe that policy is already 2 years overdue, or to come back to council. And if I'm wrong, I stand to be corrected, but it needs to be reviewed. And given that policy needs to be reviewed now urgently, if it is a couple of years behind from the way I read it, it was. Tack this on into there, speak to who you need to, and then just bring it back all in October.
Thank you. The CEO wishes to make a comment.
Just because I have a little bit more information than we did at the time when we published the response, the approximate cost to add in call recording and saving of approximately 50 calls happening simultaneously, noting not all staff are on their phone all the time, is about $30,000. So it's not an enormous cost outlay to council, with then an ongoing cost around $3,000 a year. So just so you councillors are aware of that, because I didn't have that information then and we do now. I obviously still need to do the stakeholder negotiation and stuff, but the costs are certainly not exorbitant.
Thank you for that, CEO. So I'll leave it as it is, and I think I just spoke for it.
Thank you very much. Anybody wish to speak against it? Anybody wish now to speak for it? Well, nobody said anything, so I don't think a right of reply is going to be terrific. So I'm going to put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried.
Record me as voting against. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Councillor Shelton. Actually, record me as voting against it as well. All right, next item is on page 384 in the confidential items book. So in your red book, for those who...
If you're on Cirillo Reserve, I move that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Second it.
Is there any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried unanimously. Yes. Okay, thank you. Next item's on page 398.
I'll move that way, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Seconder? Councillor Hall. Any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Next item's on 402.
Can I ask, sorry, and I've just got my page, but I've lost my page. We're transferring these funds to somewhere?
Property reserve, apparently, councillor.
All right, can I move that those funds, given that it's in the vicinity of Carnes Hill, that those funds be transferred to the Carnes Hill Stage 2 pre-SIG development?
You certainly can move that. I think we would have to establish a separate reserve fund, but that's no problem, is it, Mr Nadan? No.
Okay, so that is an added...
Instead of just moving it into general reserves,
Yep.
given that we're selling in, is where we're selling
That's point
public?
4. So point 4 is being changed to allocated to Carnes Hill Reserve Stage 2.
Yep.
Okay. Everything else the same? Thank you, Councillor.
I have a foreshadow motion.
Councillor Chitty, seconder.
You're not going to go to Facebook.
Councillor Hull, seconding. Thank you. Okay, Councillor. No. Do you wish to speak to your motion, Councillor?
Madam Mayor.
No, not you, Councillor Rhodes. Councillor Chitty.
No, I'm fine, Mayor.
Okay. Is there any opposition? You can speak against it, councillor, and highlight your foreshadowed in that speaking.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I'm not so keen on selling this block of land, and my motion would simply be that council doesn't sell that lot, 1 DP, 567321, but in preference land banks, or number 2, land banks this site until there is such a time for Liverpool Council has a need to develop it.
Okay, thank you. Have you got a seconder? No, Councillor Hall, you seconded Councillor Chitty's motion. Yes, you did. You put your hand up, I saw it. I do recognise your knuckles. Okay.
Are you swapping?
So, anybody wish to second Councillor Rhodes's motion?
Yeah, I'll second it. Thank you.
Thank you,
Madam Mayor.
Councillor. All right. Okay, we've got 2 motions. One's don't sell and the other one is per the book with that.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly, councillor.
If we were to, do we have any plans for this land? What could we do with it?
No, it's very landlocked. We brought this back to council about 6 months ago with a more detailed explanation of it. Really, the only person it currently has any real value for is the person we're selling it to.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Yes, Councillor Hull, what's your question?
What the CEO's comments just then, it's landlocked. There are similar properties all the way along that Kurrajong Road, and we actually went to one of the logistics centres there and they had access from Kurrajong Road. Why can't this have access from Kurrajong Road?
Mr Morgan, are you able to speak to that?
Yes, through the CEO. I just need clarification. Are we on... Councillor Rhodes talked about Lot 1 in DP 56321. Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Kurrajong Road, Confo 3.
Thanks, through the CEO. Apologies. The block of land has got access from off, I think it's Kookaburra Road, which comes off
Kurrajong.
And the property itself, I think council did resolve back in April this year to sell the property to an adjoining
Neighbour.
To the adjoining neighbour. So the resolution is there. We're coming back with this report to report that the purchaser is proposing to make good the site. We had proposed to sell it for 10.86 million, which was a clean site. We're now proposing that they do the clean-up, and the price is $10 million.
Okay, thank you.
If that answers your question.
All right, we have Councillor Chitty. I think you've sort of already spoken to your motion in a sense. And when I think people are clear, we've got this motion, which is the same as the book, except with that property reserve change. I'm going to put it, those in favour.
Sorry, which one have you put?
This is the item which is Confo 3. It's the first motion, yours. So it's the same as the book except with the change of the reserve. Those in favour? Those against declare that it is carried, and so the foreshadow fails. Next item's on page 427.
Madam Mayor, could I be recorded as not being in favour of that?
Yes, certainly. You can have your name listed as against the motion, and Councillor Sheldon is also asking for the same. The next item's on page 427. What? Oh, sit down, Councillor. You're the only one standing. You're missing one. Oh.
Too
All
late.
right, okay, you now have two bodies standing. Okay, those in favour of the original motion with that change in reserve, please stand. There you go. Motion has been carried and the foreshadow it disappears. Next item's on page 427. 427.
Move that way.
Thank you.
I will second.
Seconded.
I have some questions, Madam
Hold on. Was that you seconding, Councillor Caliendo?
For.
Yeah, yes. Yes, okay, thank you. What is your question, Councillor Rhodes?
Madam Mayor, based on the report, I still have my reservations. I have no... There doesn't seem to be any assurances that there is going to be the money raised to build this compound that they're considering. And my first question would be, has Council consulted with other providers in the local government area, our area, such as the Animal Welfare League?
You want to answer?
I'll have to take that on notice, but the Animal Welfare League doesn't provide impounding services such as that, which we currently do at Wrenbury and we're proposing going into with Blacktown. They simply don't provide that type of service.
I have spoken to them and they would be very much interested in talking to Council. And what guarantee can Council provide in regard to a no-kill policy once the animals are delivered to the Blacktown pound?
That's part of the conditions of the contract, that they honour the same conditions that we have at Wrenbury. My understanding is that that's Blacktown's conditions themselves anyway, but that's one of our conditions in terms of entering into the contract.
How would you know that the animals haven't been killed?
Well, we monitor any contract that we enter into. I would have to take on notice how I would guarantee that the animals hadn't been put down. But that's part of our conditions of contract. If we believed that they were in breach of those conditions of contract, then we would have to enter into contractual negotiations. Yeah.
Can I also say that it's Blacktown's policy as well, and they're the people that will actually be administering the centre.
And the community's pretty quick in noticing these.
Very quick.
I have a foreshadowed motion, Madam Mayor.
All right, hold on to that foreshadowed motion. Does someone, Councillor Haggerty, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, it's an excellent report. I think we should note it and move on.
Thank you. Councillor Rhodes, would you like to speak against the motion?
Yes, I will speak against the motion, Madam Mayor, because I've spoken to constituents and they aren't very happy with this particular decision if it goes ahead by Council. They feel that Liverpool Council, being a major city in the Western City, does or should have its own pound facilities. They would prefer to drive to Campbelltown than to Blacktown, and they find it not appropriate that we go ahead and go into the partnership with the Blacktown pound. I do believe that there are other people who are in this industry who would be willing to go into a partnership with Liverpool Council. If Liverpool Council provided the land like the block we just decided to sell, and you know, we could work out a partnership arrangement where Liverpool supply the land and we build our own pound on that land. And perhaps the partnership is that who is in partnership with us will operate it at their cost. So there's a lot of alternatives that I don't think have been considered here. So therefore I'm against. We could put a pound out at Rossmore Grange. We've got lots of alternatives. The cost of the pound is when we take into consideration buying the land. We don't need to do that. We have the land. We have the land available to be able to build our own pound, and I believe that it is going to be better serving our constituents if we did have a pound in our own local government area.
Thank you. Councillor Haggerty, do you want the right reply?
Yes, I assume that the constituents that Councillor Rose have spoken to own animals and have them microchipped, in which case the Blacktown facility won't come into play, because my understanding is they go broop, scan the barcode or however the microchip works, and they return them to the residents. So the Blacktown thing won't come into play. So rather than oppose this motion, we should encourage animal owners to microchip their animals, and it becomes redundant.
And can I say we often hold events where we have free microchipping.
We could undertake a public awareness campaign, Councillor.
All right, I'm going to put it. Those in favour of the motion, those against. Okay, we'll do that again. Those in favour of the motion as put by Councillor Haggerty and seconded by Councillor Caliendo. 4, 5. Those against. The motion is carried and the foreshadow motion dies. Next item is in confidential, so we're moving into confidential under section 10(2), I think, of the Act, to contemplate some legal issues in regards to an item raised by Councillor Harle on Info 03. So the public is now being asked to leave. Thank you. In closed session, that council receives and notes the report and explores costs and ways of expanding the scope of air monitoring, including sites that are known to generate high levels of pollution, such as resource recovery operations, material recycling sites and concrete manufacturing plants. This was declared carried by the council. Thank you very much for coming. Meeting closed.
Thank you.